I'm talking about affirmative action, or at least uh, overturning of it. Once again, this podcast is ran by Spotify. It's on, you know, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and the great Apple Podcast is all over the place. And I'm here for you. And yes, I took a week off. I had to, because a lot of different things and projects and stuff. But I wanted to come back strong with something that's important to the people. And I think this is very important because during the time that they got rid of the abortion thing, they didn't get rid of any other real laws except for one, and that is affirmative action. And this is a bad thing because people were more concerned about abortion and missed the real mark on what was really going on, what they really wanted to get rid of. The Supreme Court decided it was a good idea to get rid of it based off the fact that they felt that racism is even now, and it actually isn't. There's still people who are treated unfairly and need that so they can survive, get into jobs, get into college, and all kinds of things. And so we're going to watch this small clip here, and then I have another one. And it's just something that happens a lot, I noticed. I don't know if anybody else is aware of these type of things, but there's always something going on in society, in the culture of America, North America anyway, where they'll throw something out there that people really trip on. And while they're tripping on that, they'll pass another law or a bill or something, and it will be something that's very important to all of us. But yet they focused on the one that people care about the most. And it's really stupid. One thing that they did that I thought was ridiculous, because, well, Obama became president. It was a big shocker. The first person that wasn't a Caucasian to be president. And yet they got rid of all our freaking things where you can just plug your TV in the wall and have automatic television and all that, and made it to where we had to buy these little converter boxes out of Radio Shack and things like that that could give us these weird alternative cables, and and then this made flat screen TVs and a whole bunch of other stuff. And this is what happened. They brought the president out so we wouldn't know that they messed up our televisions and didn't let us vote on the fact that something should have been voted for. I know it sounds stupid, but it pissed me off when it happened. A lot of y'all that knew what happened when Obama became president with the televisions, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, but anyway, serious matter, even though that was serious for me because I'm a serious television watcher. But here, this is something important, and it got overlooked, and it got overturned. And so a lot of you are walking around thinking you still have affirmative action, and you don't. So let's explain what happened. This is from the British broadcast channel where they're explaining what's going on in America. It was even shocking to them, but it wasn't shocking enough for the United States to make it publicized over a lot of other things.
The US Supreme Court has ruled universities cannot consider race and ethnicity in university admissions. Now, this judgment ends a decades-old practice of affirmative action. That means it's aimed at boosting education opportunities for African Americans and other minorities. Well, let's go straight to Washington now. Our correspondent Jessica Parker, who is there for us. And Jessica, just explain exactly what this now means for university admissions in the States and why it's important.
So what the Supreme Court has done today is effectively banned the consideration of race or ethnicity as a factor amongst student hopefuls who are trying to get into university or college, as it's described here in the US. As you were saying, this is a long set precedent. It goes back more than 40 years. It's the kind of framework where universities couldn't set quotas, for example, on race, but they could take it into consideration. Now, two cases that argued that actually this was leading to discrimination against white students and Asian students. They brought those cases against the University of North Carolina and Harvard as well. And the judgment handed down today has handed them a victory. Now, it has split along expected dividing lines. The ruling was by 6 votes to 3, not a surprise given the conservative leaning of the court and the reaction has likewise been quite predictable as well. You've had Conservatives welcoming this decision. They say that it has been a practice of discrimination, but others more from the Liberal side saying actually that this is, as far as they see it, something of a disaster, that they fear this will mean that underrepresented groups now have a harder time of trying to get into universities, particularly the extremely competitive ones.
So with that little clip, it's only a minute something long. So here's my point of view on what we just heard. Now, she's right. Now, liberals might, be saying, okay, this is wrong. Now people don't have a fair chance of getting to college or whatnot. And it's also true. It's very true, because there's a lot of people who hate the fact that other people have the same opportunities as them. And you know it when you get those type of people who feel entitled, white folks or whatever. They don't like it. Let's say a black man gets a different position over them, they hate that and they go crazy about it. Or you learn something that of another race doesn't know. You're able to get opportunity that's business-wise, or a thing that's cool, like some form of electronics or a car, and you get it before they do, and it makes them mad. Or you're achieving something great. I could tell you this story a billion times over, and you know what I'm talking about if you're a person of color. And I've dealt with it when it comes to certain things. Like even when I had my YouTube channel was out for a year, and I had met this guy at work, and he was showing me something he did on YouTube where he cooks food or eats something, and okay, that's cool and all. I don't really want people watching me eat, but I'll do it if it's just, whatever I'm watching something, it doesn't matter. But the whole thing about it is, it's just like the whole concept was like pissing him off that I showed him that I had like a little news thing I did. And you can check it out on my YouTube channel, SLK, capital SLK Universe, where I talk about pretty much everything I think is intelligent in my brain. And you can actually see a lot of stuff I created with collaborations with people and things. So, just go to my playlist when you go to that channel. But my point is that the guy saw this stuff that I was doing, and he was like, damn, and I'm sitting here cooking food, but he's pissed that I can do that he can't do it. But I actually went to school to learn how to edit and film and things, and that's what I try to do. And I'm learning certain things, like this podcast, I learned it all on my own, but I've done something similar in the past, but it was talk radio. It was way before computers got to this advanced to where we can just make podcasts, But the point of it is, what I'm saying is that a little bit of knowledge makes people that feel entitled feel like they have a disadvantage. But the person that got the opportunity was already disadvantaged because of the stipulations and all the rhetoric that come with hating someone of another race. And so by the Supreme Court passing its judgment, it automatically puts people back, sets them back. And I believe America has the most bigoted people in the whole world, and it's this most ridiculous thing because they accept people as an asylum to let people come over from other countries that feel persecuted or treated unfairly and so many things, and they need a home, so they come here and they automatically become citizens, something that the rest of the world doesn't do. America makes anybody of every race and any religion or any style, whatever, come over and become citizens of the United States, when other countries fear spies and infiltrators, outsiders, outlanders, outlanders, and all this stuff to come and destroy their country from within. But America is not afraid of that, even though it has multiple histories of things like that happen, especially with sleeper cells, sleeper agents. We had most of those from Russia, and it's just stupid. But the thing about it is, the American people themselves, the Americans themselves, don't know enough about other cultures. It's not taught in American history good enough. It's not taught when you go to history school or class and you're learning about history. They'll try to tell you everything about the government, try to tell you everything about certain figures in history that the teacher might like or that the school requires them to learn. They teach you everything that has to do with black history when they want to. But not a lot. You have to go find it on your own. I had to learn on my own, even with it being a Black History Month. Teacher took it as a joke. I can go on with that story because it's something that traumatized me, but made me realize I learned way differently than other people. And because of that, and I was able to embrace the way I learned, I was able to achieve a lot of knowledge, and I'm proud of myself. So the thing, what I'm saying is, with all these things, I can go on and on and on about all these things and relating to these things, and maybe things that other Black people can relate to, or Mexicans and Asians or whatnot. Even though Asians are a little bit wise when it comes to math and science, and I have to say, actually architecture and stuff like that. So, they still have a disadvantage, not because of the fact that they're able to obtain the knowledge, but because of the fact someone has a problem with them being Asian, which is stupid. It's pretty sad. And it's the same thing with Black folks and Mexicans and the Latinas all together that can't get a fair advantage because they want to look at them as migrant workers. Can't speak proper right now. Well, it's just something that keeps happening. But the thing is, it just needs to be there. And the saddest part about this whole thing is there's a Black man on the Supreme Court. And so what was he thinking when he decided to line up with him? Even though it was like, I think it was 4 out of 3 was the vote or something like that, it still doesn't make sense. And it's bad because now a lot of people can't get in places that maybe helped them in the past. Maybe there was some kind of acting college that was helping Black people get in because of the affirmative action, and now it's gone. The opportunity's gone, which means they get more, which I think is sad because a lot of Black people are creative in a way, visionaries in a way we see things. This is how we ended up with stuff like Jungle Fever, Crooklyn, and all that was from one great Black producer. And I'll let you guys figure out who it is, because this should be a learning thing. You should find out things. So find out who made those things, Mo Better Blues and all that, And just learn. That director was great. And I can just say it, but I'm not. But the thing is, because most people, the reason why I don't want to say it, because most people idolize Tyler Perry as if he was the greatest Black director ever, and that he's the first. They idolize him like he's the first ever Black film creator that makes good stuff. And there's other ones that are way better that talk about the Black feeling and the Black culture with passion and desire. And his way is just focusing on one aspect, mostly a family setting, how it is when you're around your Black family, and how it is to deal with the emotional crap with relationships in a Black culture. And that's what I see with Tyler Perry movies. But all the other ones need their respect too, for showing how it feels to be in a Black neighborhood, showing how it feels to be around drug addicted people in a Black neighborhood. All these type of things have to be processed. The thing is, they get overdone and they become redundant. So you have to make, and this is what I would love to see, you have to make more movies where they show Black people achieving greatness over all people and becoming successful. And I would love to see more of those. Then there's always some kind of conflict, and Black people are always in a negative light, and there's always something negative, super negative happening, and there's always a criminal lesson, or there's always some kind of drug dealing, all that. It has to be done a certain way. Even Denzel Washington played good roles, but when he played American Gangster, it's like bringing us back to here we go. Even though it's based off a true story, it's bringing us back to, okay, even a successful Black man that hasn't played a role like this still has to prove that, he's part of the culture type of thing, which is bad. Black people shouldn't always be labeled in the negative light. So that's just my opinion. But bringing it back, we're going to move on now to the next video. And as we move on to the next video, just think how they do us all. Okay, so now I'm about to move on to another clip here. And so this one is by, I guess, Good Morning America, one of these stupid American news early morning things. They drink coffee and talk a bunch of bull, and we're supposed to go, ha ha ha. Doesn't make us laugh, makes our brain a little numb, but gets us ready for the bullshit of the day. And so now it's just the thing once again. This one's about the same thing. Supreme Court limits affirmative action in college administrations. And so this is what we're going to break down.
On the air with breaking news, the Supreme Court has just issued a pair of opinions in closely watched cases involving affirmative action in college admissions at the University of North Carolina as well as Harvard University, and has struck down those policies as unconstitutional. I want to turn to Laura Jarrett, our senior legal correspondent. And Laura, you and I are both doing a version of speed read here on a very complex pair of cases, but it does seem to me very clear that these affirmative action programs by these two universities have been struck down. Many people thought, Laura, the court would outright overrule prior decisions that allow for affirmative action in certain conditions, and it's unclear to me that this opinion goes that far. How do you see it?
That's exactly right. We have a major decision here as it relates to race and education in this country, and as you said, for decades, the court has said that you can look at race as a limited plus factor, a tip, if you will, not any checking the box exercise. And here, in this case, a divided court has said the programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina are invalid. Now, those are important because those are ones that many schools base their programs on. And so the upshot here for schools is they try to sort their way through what is a deeply divided court, an opinion spanning over 200 pages here, is to try to sort through what exactly is left. It's clear that if a student feels that race has impacted their life in a deep and meaningful individualistic way, they could write an essay about that. And the court for a long time has said that schools can use diversity, the educational benefits of diversity, as a legitimate goal. And it does not appear, at least so far, that the court is taking that away. But to the extent that Harvard and the University of North Carolina and other schools have been going about it in a way that is not as narrowly tailored as this court believes that it should be, those programs will no longer be invalid. But I have to say, again, this is a complicated opinion. It's going to take a while, I think, for the colleges and universities around the country to figure out what exactly is left, if any.
So I have to pause it, and I'm going to talk about it for a minute. First thing, I like it how, now when I watched the British show just a minute ago, there was just straight British people, but in America, every time they have to do something with race, they put a person of race to talk their opinion. It's something I hate when people come up and they try to make you stand up for the whole culture. You can't, because you're only one person and you only think a certain way. You might not think like the rest of everybody else. So you can't stand up for everybody unless everybody agrees with you. And that's my opinion. And so that's the first problem with this news broadcast. The second one, what they're talking about with Harvard. Now Harvard is a place where pretty much lawyers come from, and so, and all these other colleges fall behind Harvard and whatnot, Brown, Yale, and all that. So the thing is that they're wanting to get rid of these programs that are beneficial to African Americans and other cultures, and making it a problem. With all I see here with the Supreme Court trying to ban this certain things and all this type of stuff, the conflict here is the fact that who do they want to truly have an education, and it doesn't seem like it's the people of color, which is really bad. So what seems to be happening to me is the upcoming race war again, another cultural problem, and you can stretch Black Lives Matter out the chart because we know it wasn't right. Even before Candace Owens did her documentary on Black Lives Matter and finding out that the money was going to the LGBTQ community. I'm trying to say that right, I can't never figure it out. And the whole thing with strippers and wasting it, but none of it was going to the black businesses that were destroyed during those riots, which most of them were destroyed by Caucasian people and other people who just had hang-ups with black, period. You know, I don't know how many times people yell at me about Black Lives Matter when I didn't give a damn because I didn't like the movement. I videotaped protests and things, and I was like, the whole time during 2020, instead of being quarantined, I'm running around with a camera, filming things, filming society, the bombs, protests, injustice, and I'll tell you, it was just all bad. And the thing that makes it even weirder is how strong diehard people were about this Black Lives Matter opinion. And here in Portland, the ones that were supposed to be really strong about it was white people, but then it was divided because this is not a city where there's strong supporters of the black movement. This is not a city that actually went through the civil rights movement. Unlike everybody else where they're Martin Luther King and the protests, this is a city that tries to act like they are, but there's more people who are wearing masks and giving you a disguise of that they are accepting when they really despise the cultures. And so it's a little bit of both. It's confusing as hell, but it's the truth. People, I can get persecuted and hung up and crucified for saying that, but that's the truth. So the issue here, not isn't so much that who's getting the education, it's the fact that the Supreme Court should just turn the whole thing into education for all, no matter what the culture is, no matter what the race is, and just let everyone learn the best way. And so, with this being said, obviously the Supreme Court wants to have a moral high ground by trying to explain what they think is morally right when it comes to races that's being learned and who should get it and who should be obtaining it. And then the colleges themselves has their own moral high ground because they're saying, hey, we need you to do this, that, and so forth. It's like all the racist people that are in colleges that are professors are like, hell yeah, now they overturned it. So this is bad. This is stupid and bad. It's really dumb for a country that's supposed to be united, one nation under God. It's not one nation. It's one bullshit that they're trying to throw at us, and then another one's coming later on, and that one's gonna stink like horse shit. And so, that's the honest to God truth. Who's morally right in this situation, the Supreme Court or the schools? Neither. But let's continue.
Anything of their programs and how exactly they're going to have to try to now sort through what they can do to comply with the law going forward. But what is clear here is that the headline is those colleges and universities programs are invalid. This is a sea change. This is the first time we have seen anything like this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a scathing opinion. I mean, it talks about Harvard and UNC's admissions programs lacking sufficiently focused and measurable objectives, unavoidably employing race in a negative manner, involving racial stereotyping, lacking a meaningful endpoint. So while we did not see that form of words, Laura, that this prior decision upholding affirmative action programs, Grutter v. Bollinger, we didn't say that is outright overruled. To your point, what is left? So if these admissions programs, which were tailored to try to comply with Supreme Court precedents, if they don't pass muster, you are left to wonder what will.
Exactly. Harvard was seen as the gold standard dating back to 1978. It was propped up as the program that actually got it right. The idea that it was taking the whole picture into account, that race, again, was just one factor in a larger, non-formulaic, holistic approach. That's what the schools always said. We're flexible. It's not a just check the box for one race and you get in. But again, it appears on this record that these conservative justices have disagreed with that. And, many had wondered why they took this case in the first place, if they weren't going to sort of reevaluate the law. And it seems, though, that the predictions had been largely correct, and based off of oral argument, the justices seem very skeptical, in particular the chief saying, where does it end? If Grutter, which came out in 2003, said, in 25 years from now, you shouldn't have to be relying on race anymore, well, we're almost at that 25-year mark, and it appears because the schools didn't have a time limit that they were willing to commit to, that was really used as a knock against them.
Absolutely.
So, even with that being said, what she just said, so it's like this school started the whole thing of accepting people of other races, and then now it's going back on its word as well as the Supreme Court. And this is my point, people. Now, I've always been saying that the government is them against us, and this is the truth right here. This is the proof. Now, all this happened 4 months ago, and I'm bringing it to light now. I've been wanting to do something about it for a minute, and I figured I'd do it today or tonight. Right now, in my time, it's like early in the morning, and I've got sleep problems because I work graveyard. But it's just something I wanted to bring up, because when the whole thing happened with the abortions people went nuts. And that's a touchy issue because women are in control of giving birth. I can easily say it's wrong and that we need people to be born to continue our species. Because I truly believe that the species of humanity is going to fall based off of technology, based off of people not wanting to be with the opposite sex, based off of so many different things that go on and I have. That's why there's so many episodes of this podcast. But at the same time, when it comes to this situation, this is crazy. This is ludicrous. This is straight madness because here we got a culture, once again, like I said, that we're supposed to be united. It's so divided with so many different people, different cultures, and different faiths and different beliefs. And so when you take these people and you tell them that you have an opportunity to succeed because this is the place of milk and honey, this is the place of success, you know. This is the place where you come if you want to be wealthy, all this is what the foreigners here type things, and they come here and they realize it's shittier than where they came from in many different ways. And there's too much deceptions, too much lack of knowledge, there's too much sinful acts, and just a whole bunch of crazy things. And so if we're really trying to go, if we're trying to unite the people, then none of this should be even thought of. It shouldn't be nothing where you have to check boxes, period. That's a stupid thing. What's your race? What's this and that? And all that. It's stupid. Who cares? You're a person. You deserve to be treated like a person. Your individuality should be respected. Your opinions and your mind should be valued. Okay? And so, what I don't understand is how is it anybody to die, and I'm talking about the die-hard fans of the government, people who like to defend the Democrats or defend the Republican or defend the nation's government altogether. How can you honestly say that they are working with the American people and for the people, we the people, by the people, all that stuff, okay? How can you do that when you have something like this happening that stops the big majority of the people of America, which is the black people, which is the Asian people, which is the Mexican people, and all this? What you're doing is you're saying that some people in this country truly aren't a part of this country. They are truly not real citizens of the United States of America, or even worth being treated like a real person in a fair and respectable manner. And so this is demented and delusional and crazy, and proving that America has not taken a step forward ever since the civil rights movement has passed, but has taken a step back, or was just biding their time to make certain people feel comfortable until they were saying, okay, now we're not going to let nobody in, so everybody doesn't have to be educated. This is flawed. This is like the type of people who will deal with certain groups of people and automatically think they're all the same. And I'm so tired of that. I know a lot of people are. But this is something where now the Supreme Court is just proving one thing that I've always known. Okay, even though they're judges, all judges were lawyers once, that all lawyers and judges are evil, they're the devil. And they promote chaos. They're promoting things for their own agendas to get money in their paychecks. The Supreme Court has been silent for so long that now they're stepping up, making decisions that makes no sense. Okay, the abortion thing, that's questionable. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. We got probably more people of other cultures in America right now than we have at any other time, especially with all the immigrants that crossed over the border illegally, which is another thing that's wrong, because we got people who came over here, did green cards and all kinds of stuff, and by one president's decision, we have an overflux of people, big capacity of people from south of the border who are now in America, but not legally, even though we had a whole thing when Trump and Bush was around to get rid of illegal immigrants. So it makes no sense, and I'm not saying get rid of them. I'm saying they should have went through the proper channels to become citizens and became the people that we can use it. I don't have a problem with people of other cultures from coming up from south of the border. I have a problem with doing things right. And so, with not doing it right, let's put it that way. I said it kind of wrong. But yeah, this is sad. I think everyone deserves the opportunity, no matter what their pigmentation is. And so, with that being said, let's continue.
Does seem that really got in the craw of many of the justices during oral arguments when they asked these universities, okay, so when does it end? Even Grutter, this seminal Supreme Court case that upheld the use of race-conscious admissions under certain circumstances, imagined that it would end, even said in 25 years we shouldn't need this anymore. And when the universities were asked, okay, so how do you see this ending? The court was clearly not satisfied with the responses there, and that was one of the reasons why these two admissions programs failed in the court's views. They also, I just continue to read with you, Laura, here. It says, many universities have for too long wrongly concluded that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges bested, skills built, or lessons learned, but the color of their skin. This nation's constitutional history does not tolerate that choice. This is Chief Justice John Roberts writing the majority opinion 6-3 with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Justice Jackson in.
So now, okay, looking at this, I can see, because you get the whole Supreme Court right in front of me. And, you know, Thomas is one of those Supreme Court justices, or mission major, whatever the hell. Anyway, he's African American, he's a black man. And then you got this Jackson woman who's a descent, and looks like there's an Asian woman down there with her. And so these are the only people of a different race within there. And yeah, maybe there's a Jewish person or something of that nature, but they all fall into the same category. And it looks like some of them are Russian. This guy's name looks like Polish. That one looks Italian. This chick's straight Irish and whatnot. But anyway, so my point is this: it's just that even with people of color, they have an opportunity. This is where I say government people are far gone from the regular people and citizens of the country, because they don't know how it feels anymore to be a normal person or remember the struggles and things they got and went through to get where they got or where they at. I'm saying things all messed up, but get where they at. And so that makes you wonder, what is the big purpose here? Do they get paid a larger fee? Do they become better, I don't know, get a better position? There's no real better. I don't know how the Supreme works after that, but all I'm saying is that it's even messed up, and it shows that there's some far distance point of view that they don't get. You know, the rest of us, they don't. They don't understand. They don't have to pay bills. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, while we're getting 20,000 or 10,000. Some people are getting so little in certain states. I'm telling you, they're getting $10,000 a year, while some people are getting up to 50, 60, and most jobs are getting 90 is the best you can get. You know, but to be in these guys' position where you just sit down and run your mouth and pass judgment, it's ridiculous. And so passing judgment is a thing that should only be done by God. And when you see somebody and you're dealing with them, of course you're going to have to make small decisions about that individual, but you can't consider it judgment, you know, because judgment is final. And so when you're dealing with someone and they're like talking about you and they're doing this two-faced crap and all that, it's just simple. Just get the hell away from them and just keep them out your life. Forget about trying to judge them and talk about them. Just say the hell with them and just leave it be. And that's just how it's supposed to be. And so with this all being said, a lot of this needs to be analyzed, and they should give the American people, the people of color, a second chance to overturn what they're talking about and vote, not just to have it brought back, but to make it so it's permanent and you don't have to get rid of it ever again. And I believe that should happen with a lot of Supreme Court justice decisions. But as you can see with the whole thing with the abortion thing that they overturned, Biden was trying to fight to get that overturned, but cannot, because he cannot oversee the Supreme Court, which proves that the president himself doesn't have all the power. Most people think the president has all power to do all things in the country. He's not a king, but a lot of people see it that way because they don't take the time to understand politics or political things, or even, he's the commander-in-chief. He's the guy that's supposed to command people to go into war. He's the guy, that's usually, they don't go and talk to the Supreme Court, do you think we should go to war? They don't go and talk to Congress and say, do you think we should go to war? No, the president says, let's go to war. So this is what his job truly is. Is decide if we go to war, to figure out where our military budget goes, to figure out where certain things go. He takes suggestions from Congress to be able to help pass bills and things and move things forward. And he's also have his own opinions on things he wants to do, and he's able to set these rules and standards. So the president is totally different compared to the Supreme Court, and so they can't be overlooked. They can't be overturned. There's a girlfriend I had a couple years ago, and she was obsessed with I can't remember her name. She was on the Supreme Court, just died. She did all this stuff for women. Greensburg, I think her last name was. And so, she was looked upon highly by feminists and lesbians and so forth, and still is. And even though she's passed. But the thing about it was, people took the time to get to know that Supreme Court person, but the rest of these guys, they're like ghosts. And that's how a lot of people look at Congress too. They don't know the Congress people. And I think because of Alexander Cortez, now we can know our Congress people. So, moving on.
Dissent.
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting because you have to start from the backdrop that the conservatives on this court have made sort of their feelings about what is more colloquially known as affirmative action for a long time. And the question was always, well, how far do they want to go? Do they want to say you can't use race at all, even in an essay? That would be somewhat extraordinary. And again, at oral argument, even Justice Jackson pointed out, well, how can you strip that away from somebody's identity? How can you tell them they can't even talk about it in an essay? And it appears the court is not going that far. And so now it seems the next step there where we're going here is where people will be trying to find other ways to incorporate how race is meaningful in their lives, but again, not in the way that schools are doing it currently. It's going to be a reworking of the current system. If you want to at least explain how race is important to you, and the school wants to take that into effect as it tries to have a diverse campus and promote that. That's not wrong, but it's the way that schools have been going about it that the justices believe violates the law.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss...
Okay, that's that dude. Okay, so we're going on to this new one, and this video is a student, an Asian American student, and they're just talking about what happened with the affirmative action. Anyway, so let's listen.
Want to bring in Alex Shea, prospective Brown University student. I know, Alex, you're on the other side of this. You were hoping that the Supreme Court would move in the direction that it did today. Why do you think that this is the right way to move forward on this?
Right. Well, I think this is a win for students all across America, because we shouldn't be judging students based on their race when we're deciding who gets into what schools. I think that I believe that your previous guest is mistaken in this regard, because I think that by getting rid of affirmative action, now we look at the individual student and what they've accomplished, and we can look at what barriers they've overcome. But we view them as an individual first and foremost, as opposed to just viewing them as a blob in an amorphous, larger racial group, as opposed to just under this new system, we get to view students for who they are as individuals, and I think that's a much better way to go forward on this topic.
You heard Louie's point.
Yeah, to pause it there, because, and the reason why I'm playing this point of view is just from a student that supports the Supreme Court action. Now, he makes a good point that students should always look to students, but we know that not to be fair and true, because even in jobs, you get a job and you get certain jobs that will hire a certain amount of black people or Mexicans, whatever, because they have to by law. And so they'll hire them just to say that they're friendly with other cultures, but really not. And we know this. And unfair things happen and things are said that is disrespectful to people, and people leave and try to find another job. And this is where some people have a resume full of different jobs because of the fact that there's so much negativity and racism. So the same thing here with the Supreme Court and the students. Now, this kid is right. Yes, it's a good thing if all students get treated fairly, but there's always going to be a large number that isn't. And so that's the part I'm talking about. I'm talking for those that don't get supported. But I just want to make that statement and make that clear of what I'm saying and how I feel about it. But anyway.
There, though, that this now forces students, if they want the school to take into account race in some fashion or form, that they're going to have to now write about this.
Right. Well, I think that fundamentally, right, for most people, race is just a characteristic. It's sort of the way that your body manifests. I think that for some students that does play a role in how they experience the world, but for some students it doesn't. And I think that allowing them that option to express that in an essay, for instance, affords much more freedom, because race doesn't affect everybody the same way. And to just have a blanket policy where everybody's race is considered no matter what, I don't think that's appropriate, because it impacts different people in different ways. I find that a lot of these arguments oftentimes in favor of affirmative action are somewhat incongruous, because I've heard a lot of people that say, like, hey, affirmative action, it's a good way to overcome past discrimination. But in my experience, as an Asian American, I'm not exactly sure how that works for me, because it's much more difficult for Asian Americans to gain admittance to schools than for white students, for instance. And I don't think that you'll see in the past any instance of Asians discriminating against whites. So for me, that sort of just falls flat.
He's making a point, but at the same time, you got to look at the fact that he's talking about for Asian people, but there's a lot of black people who will disagree with him, a lot of even Hispanic people. So either way, he did say at one point that, you know, white people have a problem with it, whatever. But, you know, I'm just going to let him play the rest of this out.
I'm going to Brown next year, and I'm happy that the admissions officers at Brown took me for whatever reason. But it does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable knowing that in that admissions office, when they were deciding whether they were going to accept me, reject me, that they might have been considering my race. Because I think that that's not something that I can control or that anyone can control. And I think that it's unfair to judge someone based on that when there are really so many better ways to judge students based on their character, based on their accomplishments. Race, it's just how you're born, and you can't change it.
See, he's actually smart right there with what he's saying. Yeah, you're born, yes, I'm born black. What the hell? I can't make a difference. I can't change it. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to change it. I am who I am. And so here's the point of it. It doesn't matter, you know, the pigmentation. And there's no, besides people trying to glorify who they are based off their race and glorify that they're so superior. And the thing about it is so dumb, and I've said this before, and this is what I truly believe. There is no superior race. And you know, based off laws that they put out there, not just here in America, but the rest of the world, because all people are guilty of the same damn crimes. There's always going to be someone that's going to jail for murder or rape or whatever. There's not one race on the earth that has not, unless you can find them. Maybe those people on that island that doesn't interact with us don't commit crimes. You know, I think somewhere by Madagascar, or the people in Shangri-La, you know, and all these other places don't commit the crimes that the rest of the world does, of every race. Okay, we're talking theft, murder, you know, all that armed robbery, all this has always been done. It's not just black people, not just Asians, Mexicans, white people, it's everything. It's all of them. So there's no superior race. I believe a superior race would not commit one crime, would be flawless from all negative actions, would be able to do things way more superior than any of us. Hell, they probably could fly like Kryptonians, for all I know, and shoot laser beams out their eyes, but they'd be way more superior than the rest of us. And so the thing about it is, until people get over the hump and realize that there's no superior race, we're always going to have this crap, because there's always going to be someone that does think they're more better than the rest of us, think they're God or godly. And those type of people put themselves on a moral high ground that the rest of us really shouldn't even think about even acquiring. And so, I threw it out there. Played this. I don't know. I'll leave it for you guys to research yourself. I'm just wanted to talk about it a little bit and explain the things I think is wrong And I think all this is just ridiculous and wrong. And it just proves that the country's divided and always has been and most likely will stay. So, with that all being said, I really don't have nothing else to add to this. But with it being said, I have to say, God might look at it as a joke to how these people are, and laugh at them for their ignorance and thinking they can rule over his creation, something he perfected. He put the colors out there, the races out there, you know, just the cultures and the races, and then the people name the colors, black, white, whatever. I'm brown, but okay, I'm black. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense. So the whole thing about it is, and I've been pondering this because there's a woman I was talking to not too long ago, and she was saying that, how she put it, she was talking about how people are inbred and how a lot of people continue to breed breed within the same gene pool without realizing it, because we're all like, okay, we're black, so we like black women, and just keep making it black women. Or, you know, a white man will be with a white woman and continue to be with white women. And so they make white babies, black babies, stuff. But in that conversation, she was saying this is why there's so many different cultures, so you don't inbreed. And she made a good point, a point I didn't ponder before, something that never occurred to me. And honestly, as a male, you can look at other women, maybe other races, and say, damn, she's beautiful, or yeah, she's attractive, like, wow, look at that, you know? And so, yeah, most likely, the gene pool is jacked because it keeps replicating the same genes, but every now and then it will find a genetic makeup that isn't so unique to the one you have, but maybe a small bit of it is similar. And this is why we get the same color or whatever from that DNA strand. But every now and then you get a different strand in there, and that's why you get, you know, black babies with blue eyes, or, you know, a little reddish in their hair, or, you know, an Asian kid that might look more Caucasian or something. It just, this is what happens. So I think that chick was kind of right. I think more people need to have interracial relationships to maybe make a more stronger gene pool that's separate and different from the rest of us. Maybe that is the superior race, the superior culture, is the ones we haven't created yet. And maybe that might be the moral rightness that is put there by God. Who knows, even though God says that the Israelites and stuff are supposed to stick to their own kind. This is a very touchy issue, but who knows? Someone has the moral high ground here, but I believe the Supreme Court doesn't. And I believe that the stools don't. And so it comes down to the people. What do you think? And if you guys like this episode, please leave a message, subscribe, share my work, and get back to me with whatever you think about this issue. And so, with that all being said, this has been Moral High Ground. Peace be with you all, and blessings upon you always. Until next time, peace.